Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're looking at a little 3-game slate here after a really full Wednesday night slate. Just a few games to choose from. In this one, we're going to be talking about two teams that are not necessarily trying to win, but we do have some value in the Rockets and the Spurs game. Also have another game video up for you guys and our player props that we're bringing you each and every weekday of this regular season. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where Nate and the gang are putting all our great written content up there for you. All those player props as well, and our odds finder tool that you can use to make sure you go ahead and get the best juice back on all of these bets you make in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go through this little slate here and then talk Spurs and Rockets.
Yeah, the Clippers have opened +4 at Miami. They're on a back-to-back here after playing in Orlando. The Rockets right now, it opened at -1. They're up to -2.5 because people cannot line up fast enough to bet against the Spurs. Total's at 233 there. And then the other game we break down is pretty much a pick'em. Denver -1 at Portland. Dame Lillard back, total of 226 for that Northwest showdown. Look, the Spurs, we're just saying, like, are they really going to lose every game the rest of the season? Would they dare? I mean, this is a franchise that will do whatever they want. And the Tankathon has been really impressive in terms of how badly they're just thumbing their nose at the process. Like, losing by an average of 18 points per game in their last 8. No covers. They have one cover in the last 11 of their losses, and that was by 1.5 points against the Blazers. Barely got in there. They were actually competitive in that first matchup with the Lakers, right? And then all of a sudden, Jeremy Sochan and Jakob Poeltl both go down with quad or knee injuries that have still kept them out to this day. So they just don't want to have any defense. Bates Diop has been ruled out. Some fishy injury news that we don't even know. Josh Richardson or Doug McDermott might play or might not. That's not going to help their defense for sure. And Devin Vassell is questionable, and he would be a big deal if he's out because he's been their only efficient scorer. Keldon Johnson continues to struggle. And they're just, the defense slightly better at home, but still just awful. I mean, you look at their last 5 home games in particular, they're still allowing 120 points per game. So I think the starting point, we don't even need to talk about who the opponent is. The starting point for facing the Spurs is, what is the opponent's team total? Do we want to take the over on that? I mean, it's going to be really high with the 233 total. I might actually even lean under if the Rockets are like projected for 126 here. Is that the math?
Yep.
The Rockets are extremely dependent on free throws to get their points up right now. They're scoring far less on the road and getting 24 free throw attempts on the road, which is still good, but it's not the 30 they're getting at home. It's not the 43 they got in Phoenix for one of these rare road wins here. They've won 4 of their last 6, though. Playing pretty well, pretty frisky. They might even get Jayshawn Tate back soon. Maybe not for this game, but the rookie Jabari Smith playing well. Jalen Green, of course, the green light, and KPJ. And this is the same cast of characters that actually went in and won 2 of their last 3 in San Antonio, despite a triple-double from DeJounte Murray, despite the Spurs when they had both DeJounte and DeMar DeRozan and Keldon Johnson still playing well in January of 2021. This is a game that they will want to win. I look at some of the numbers and dive in deeper, and it's just like they don't match up well against the Spurs. They're 30th in assist to turnover allowed, 30th in fast break points. That's how the Spurs are scoring this year because they don't have a good set offense. And the Spurs are number 1 limiting free throws. And again, that's what the Rockets depend on. Of course, lately the Spurs have started giving up more of that. They started giving up more of everything because they're just straight up not playing to win. It's hard to bet on anything here, but the takeaway, the tank is on for real, and the numbers that back it up the most is that the Spurs are 26th in fourth quarter scoring and giving up the most fourth quarter points per game. So even if it's close, if they decide they want to pull the plug, they will just let the other team win. What do you think? Is this the night they say, like, in-state rival, we're going to actually get one here because we can, and we'd like to give our fans something to cheer about?
If you sense the struggle in Nate's voice, it's because he wants to bet on the Spurs. He's just like, you can't lose every game, and if you're going to pick them to win a game, you got to choose one of the bottom 5 teams in the league, which is what Houston is. All of that said, like, Houston does want to win. Like, there's some games that they're just completely overmatched. But even with the Spurs' ability to limit free throws, like, you don't have much of a choice. You're either going to foul one of their incredibly athletic guards in Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, when Jason Tate's incredibly versatile, powerful, small man big, if you will. But, like, either way, you've got guys just flying at the rim. Like, you've either got to foul them or let them, get their shots. And Jalen Green's looked a lot better around the rim, which we've talked about recently. So I'm still feeling good enough about Houston to take them at basically a pick 'em in a game that, like, who's gonna like outsmart them, right? Like, you look at the teams that they're beating, as you talk about them winning 4 of their last 6. They beat a 76ers team at home that, like, I don't know, James Harden came back. I don't know what to make of the Sixers. They're a mess. They're similar to the Mavs. Like, they could lose to anybody. They could beat anybody when they have their full team in there, is kind of how I see it. So, like, I don't know, like with Houston, they take advantage of these situations where, like, you just think that they're left for dead, and then they kind of come back with a little bit of a vengeance. They didn't do that against the Warriors, but, like, they beat the Suns beforehand. So, like, it's a total make or miss league for them. And when they are hitting the threes, which they do take at a rate that's like 9th highest in the league in terms of the amount of field goals they're shooting from deep, like, they are shooting a ton of threes. So it is 3 or in the paint for this Houston team, which does make you feel decent about that. Like, I don't know, like, Pirtle's not playing, but even when he was playing, like we talked about, he had a league worst opponent field goal percentage in the paint, where it was like guys were shooting 71% around the rim against Jakob Pirtle this season, which is, like I said, pretty bad, pretty much the worst in the league. But they are in what, the, like, top 15 are the Spurs in terms of, no, I'm sorry, they're even worse than that now. They're all the way at the bottom in terms of allowing points in the paint. I'm sorry, they're second worst. I was looking at, like, a smaller sample size there for a minute, but then I clicked on the correct tab and it was like, no, they're 29th in opponents' points in the paint. And, the Rockets remain sort of in the middle of that, in the middle of the league in terms of points in the paint and how often they're even taking field goals from inside the paint. But I got to imagine that they're going to continue to do that even at a higher rate with, like I said, with guys like Jalen Green and KPJ just flying at the rim, and that's their best offense. So if that's going to be the case, then I think they're going to get the free throws that the Spurs are limiting. I mean, when you look at free throw attempt rate, the Spurs they're not the best team at that, right? Because they're playing at such a high pace that they're still giving up a ton of free throws throughout the game and allowing teams to continue to get to the line and get easy buckets. So, like, I just lean towards, I do lean a little bit under just for some of the splits between the Rockets at home and on the road. I mean, the Spurs are better on defense at home because they only give up 120 points per game at home versus 122 on the road. So I guess that's better than awful, or it's still really awful, or better than really awful. But, the Rockets on the road obviously score like 6 points fewer, as you mentioned, and they are shooting a little bit worse from the field as well, probably taking a few more worse shots when you look at their shot selection as well. So look, man, I mean, I don't know, second chance points could be a thing as well. Both these teams sort of rely on misses and helter-skelter ball, so it's kind of like them both staring at each other in the, like, Spider-Man meme in a way. But with that said, like, with all the guys that are going to be out as well for the Spurs, I'm just going to take the Rockets, who have pretty much everybody playing for them, and are, at least we know, going to be trying. Just a matter of, how much are they going to be sort of like composed enough to sort of have an efficient offense. And I think they'll be going to the rim enough to get some free throws, which is efficient offense.
Yeah. I don't know if I even trust this injury report, though, to see who the Spurs are playing. Like, they definitely, guys who are out could suddenly be playing if they decide they want to win this game. But I think you're spot on with the under being a way to cover, like, 2 of the 3 scenarios where this could unfold, right? That the Spurs just continue to just not care to score like 104 at home, and that's not enough for you to go over, because the Rockets aren't the Phoenix Suns. They're not going to score 133. They're not Zion Williamson, who scored 130 on the Spurs, so that gets you under. Or there's a scenario where the Spurs actually care and they go out to win this game, and you can limit the Houston Rockets because, again, they are not an offensive juggernaut. So the only scenario it doesn't cover is if the Spurs decide they're going to go out to win and they're going to play a fast break game, and then crazy stuff happens as it has in some of these Rockets game lately. But yeah. I think they probably fired their best shot at least in their last game here against Philly. I mean, the Rockets certainly aren't going to suddenly be on a heater here. They're not a good team by any means, and I mean, they're facing one of the best coaches in the game. And if he decides he wants to put the right pieces around to slow down Jalen Green, I'm pretty sure he can take away Jalen Green, regardless of who the personnel is out there for the Spurs. So under is our preferred bet here, because good Lord, we don't know what the motivations will be for the Spurs.
So true. I mean, you look at the Spurs, even their points total is against anybody that tries on defense, which I'm not claiming the Rockets do, but I lean under as well because, I mean, if Pop decides that he wants to put in the right lineups to play this game, the only thing I would argue is this is one of your biggest contenders for the top spot in the draft next season. So it's kind of like this is the team to actually lose to. The wins for the Spurs might be those random nights where teams like the Grizzlies sit everybody or whatever and they can pull one out of their butt, but like in a game where the Rockets are also fighting for last place in the league, maybe the tankathon requires in this situation that you lose. So either way, I'm gonna pick the Rockets. I'm gonna feel better about an under than an over in this one, and then I'm just gonna not watch this game and do something else with my Thursday night. So that is all the time we have for you in this one, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We are coming back to you guys with a much better slate the rest of this week, we assure you. So until we see you next, happy betting.